Alrighty guys, hello and welcome back to Beyond All Reason, where we have the red team in the north taking on the blue team in the south in a spit-swapping make-out cage match going down on Angel Crossing. And this epic match can be yours for the low price of $59.99 on pay-per-view. I definitely could have been a WWE announcer, pay-per-view seller at some point. Anyway guys, hello, welcome back to Beyond All Reason. Been a while since I've done a cast. Let's go ahead and introduce our players. We got Team 1 up in the north, Team 2 down in the south, engaging in this spit-swapping make-out cage match. Starting in the rear, we have a Tartary Alligator who's going as the Armada, opening for first bots. To his north, we have Phalange, who's going as Cortex, opening first bots. Obviously, this dude's a big fan of Phoebe from Friends. Some people don't like Friends. I like Friends. I thought it was a good show. Anyway, we've got Tears in Rain going also as Cortex, and he's opening first bots. To his east, actually, we've got Tellus going as the Cortex, opening first vehicles. Next, we have Magix. Seen him before, works some magic with that necromancy with all of his bots that are being raised back to life, and he's going as the Cortex, opening first bots. And that is going to be it for the red team. And going down to the blue team in the southern corner, we've got El Barto, and he's going to be going first Hover, actually. Interesting. We don't see Hover a whole lot in casts. Next, we've got Erun, who's going to be going actually first Navy, and he's going to be going as the Cortex. To his east, we have Karumnal, who is going Cortex, opening first bots. And in the rear position, we have Falaka, who's going Cortex, opening first spots. And last but not least, we have Killer Storm. That's a WWE name if I have ever heard one. He's going as the Armada, opening first bots as well. So different approaches from both teams. Really interesting. So Arun airing to, and that's not a pun, I swear, airing to start in the water, actually get some naval pressure set up immediately. Same with El Barto, except he's starting on land, but he's got that hover that's going to be helpful for securing these naval areas. And up on the northern side, we got Magix, who's really the only one that's going to be holding down the fort as far as Navy goes, or Navy/hover. And he actually started on land, is actually walking his ACU or commander out into the water. Aaron on the move as well. Tears in Rain and Tellus, as well as Phalange and Tartary Alligator, all hanging out up here in the northern corner. So a little bit more of a spread out start from the blue team, putting 2 players in the water with 3 players kind of here on the central landmass, with only 1 player, albeit it is Magix, who's a very, very competent player, taking the naval side there for the red team, or team number 1. Probably gonna go back and forth between whether I say team number 1 or red team, blue team, so it's okay. Those of y'all that are red versus blue fans from the old Halo days will probably be a fan of the red team, blue team. And if you haven't seen Red versus Blue, it's an absolutely hilarious show from the OG Halo. But first little raiding party out. We got some light gunboats out from Arun. And I'm less familiar with the naval units, so bear a little bit with me. Not a whole lot of maps that I've played in this game involve Navy. A little bit more of them are just land spam. And some hover harass now out from El Barto. And a couple of light assault bots there for, that's going to be Tartary Alligator. A couple pawns. Going to be first to run into the engagement here from the hover tanks. Or the, hover tanks. Or hovercraft. Hover tank. Whatever. It's a tank that hovers. It's now a hover tank. Going to be able to evade the pawns, and this is, these are not like very high-tech units, but they will do a lot of damage to this base. It's going to be some of the core power going down, one of the metal extractors going down. Pawns running to try and keep up with these hover tanks. It looks like the hover tank's actually moving a little faster, which is interesting. Phalange's commander in the near vicinity, as the grunts it out there with the hover tanks, and Phalange's going to finish it off. So actually not that bad. I think only 1 power generator and 1 metal extractor goes down, so not too terrible there for Tears in Rain, whose commander is actually more forward, focused on getting this front line set up. And we'll get some of these drawings out of the way as Flaka slash Krunel and Karunal and Killerstorm dealing with another little run by. This from a bunch of grunts in this instance. Gonna run into a light laser tower, be able to kill it, so no economy damage there for either Killerstorm or Karunal. And Flaka's gonna have to face off against Magix here in this naval section. More little hover tanks. The Goons fast hover tanks making their way in. Gonna run into a light laser tower as well as Tears and Rain's commander that will promptly dispatch with a D-gun shot. Masterful expert use of the D-gun there by Tears and Rain. One of the higher rated players there on the red team. Quite a mix, though, of rankings. We got Killerstorm and Tartary Alligator both on the lower side of the ranking side, with El Bardo, Flaka, both players that we've seen before in cast, as well as Magix that are going to be leading up. And Tears and Rain, I don't think I've seen him before, but he might have changed his name. Might be somebody that we are more familiar with, as a couple of medium tanks going to be running into Karunal's forward position there. I think these are medium tanks. Nope, those are light tanks. My bad. Out from Tellus. Delivering about as good a cell service as Tellus does around the world. I've actually never used Tellus, so no idea if they have good service or bad service, but I know they've got a pretty big network, I think out in Europe as well as South America. I did a lot of cell provider research in another life. Some floating heavy laser towers being erected by Arun. Gonna look to cage Tartary Alligator in here as best as possible. Another little run by being dealt with by Karunal's commander in this instance. A couple of grunts making their way, and so it would appear that there is as you can see, there is a passable path there for bots. So Magix not really sacrificing a whole lot in terms of overall mobility, in terms of and being able to attack his opponents by going for bots. In this instance, he's just gonna not have as good of an ability to contest the waterways quite as well. But there is an attack path, you can tell by the shallower water, that is a slightly lighter shade of blue that bots can get across. But pretty quiet at this point. Everybody's setting up their defensive lines, making sure production is where they want it to actually be. So yeah, the reason why I've been quiet for a little bit on the casting as well as the video making side, just had a lot going on. We had my wife ended up getting laser eye surgery, so had to take care of her. We got a new dog, so and he is where our old dog wants nothing more than to please you and do exactly what you want whenever you want her to do it. He's a lot more mischievous, and we'll get into things a lot more, so he's taking a little bit more micromanagement. But Flaka engaging with a series of no, those are actually grunts. Grunts stacking up there for Magix, going to be able to shoo those away, as Magic's got a pretty good hold here. And Flaka setting up some defensive structures to try and mitigate at least a push on this particular side. Karunal, though, very exposed on this flank. As Flaka's pinging it out, Karunal's pinging it out, saying he sees it, shifting some thugs over to support. But all these mexes gonna go down, as well as a lab there for Karunal. So 3 mexes down. That's not great. It's not what you want to wake up to in the morning. Thugs destroying trees. They are obviously huge capitalists in the way that they want to shape the world. There are actually plenty of capitalists out there that are environmentally conscious. Not a dig on capitalism. I actually think capitalism is a great form of an economy, but other people are going to disagree. As it looks like Tartary Alligator, not Tears and Alligator, Tartary Alligator going for quite a few bombers, so he's going to be playing a lot of air. And not a whole lot of response out from Flocka just yet. Has made the jump to Tech 2, though, with that advanced bot lab under production. Some energy storage out, but not really any air production. We've got Killer Storm going for a Tech 2 bot lab as well. Electing actually to just brute force his way to Tech 2 instead of reclaiming his Tech 1 bot factory. Which is perfectly valid. But if you're struggling with jumping from Tech 1 to Tech 2 in this game, that's a pretty common way to help manage that transition is Control K or delete your original bot lab. That way you can recycle all that mass into the new bot facility. But either way, he's going to get that up in a pretty good amount of time here at 10 minutes, 20 seconds into the game. Get that construction turret there assisting as Bomber's now going in on Ahroun's power grid. Gonna get a good portion of it. They run into some AA here, though, from El Bardo. That's going to be a good portion of Ahroun's power grid going down, unfortunately, for him. And over on this side, is Flocka doing me a solid on the casting, making sure to highlight these things. Karunal's commander. Going to try and degun down as many of these grunts as he can. Going to get himself a little bit surrounded, though. He should be fine with his commander. But is going to once again lose these mexes that he tried to recapture. And Killer Storm coming to his rescue there. I might need to look at getting some light laser towers here. That's the second time Magix has pulled that little move out of his hat. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times. Am I a fucking idiot? Or maybe it's fool me 8 times. There's a great Today Show with Jon Stewart on foreign oil. This is like way back in maybe like 2010 or something like that. So very, very old video. If you can find it online, I don't know if it's hosted anywhere online, but if you want to search for it, it's called An Energy Independent Future with Jon Stewart, and it is absolutely hilarious and just as true 12 years later as it was in 2010 or 2008, whenever it was published. I realize this cast has gotten very political. We're talking about presidents, we're talking about capitalism. This is great. Sort of. Okay, back to the game. Bot lab getting set up there by Ahroun. Gonna start pumping out some thugs. He's got some naval construction turrets, which are essentially the same thing as the construction turrets. They're just floating. Setting up there to assist that bot production facility. And that's going to be a problem here for Tartary Alligator, as Tartary Alligator, well, he is getting advanced vehicles, but does not have a whole lot of land units and only has light laser towers in defense of his base. So going to need to address that in the near future, although if Ahroun just parks his units here right in front of another light laser tower, it might not be a huge issue. But there he goes. He starts moving them. You can see just how fragile these buildings are. Really need some unit support. So those thugs go rolling on through, grab a mechs, take out the radar. The world is their oyster. They could jump up here for Tears and Rain, or go back here for Tartary Alligator. Tartary Alligator does have a couple bombers he's going to use in response. No AA in this mix, so that'll be helpful for him. He's also got some light artillery vehicles. Bomber's going to do something. Almost kill one. The thugs will have their way with this base. Especially as you can see, there's a stream of units coming in there on the minimap. Pyro's, though, out from Phalange. Coming to bail his buddy out here. Those Pyros will actually put a stop to this push. Good heads-up play there for Phalange. Putting friends first. Yeah, so that push is going to be blunted. We got quite a few shots firing off elsewhere on the map, and I think that's some of the face-off here in the middle. So we got some Tech 1 units as well as some artillery barraging what was formerly Killer Storm's position, or not Killer Storm, Karunal's position up here. Those are going to be a bunch of Sheldons I'm having trouble selecting them, but those are Sheldon's. Mobile mortar bots out from Tears and Rain. And we do have a pretty healthy mix of both vehicles and bots there. Good thing about starting to make a push. We have a couple of Sumos here, the armored assault bots. Oh, and that's interesting. Rocket bots set up there from Magix over the cliff. Be able to bombard at range, and now we see the push coming down the middle. I think red team is being a little timid here. I think this army made up of Atelis' vehicles as well as Tears and Rain's bots presents a pretty serious threat here. But right now it doesn't really seem like they're shooting at a target. Everything seems to be missing this chainsaw. This chainsaw is literally Neo from the Matrix, just dodging all the bullets. There we go. Now they figured that out. They're going to go down. They don't want to deal with the Dragon's Maws up there of pop-up flame turrets. They'd really like to grab Killer Storm's commander here. But Tech 1 and Tech 2 bots making their way up to the front from Flaka, as well as, I think that's, no, that's going to be Killer Storm. Be able to put up a pretty good fight here. Well, it looks like Tears and Rain more interested in dealing with Arun up here. Hasn't completely dealt with the static defenses yet. And Tellus, I believe, napping a little bit there with these units. Sumo's going to get in range. These guys pack a punch at short range and they can take a hell of a lot of punishment. My thing is, they're slow as molasses. They're literally the Daleks. Oh, and up here we can see Flaka getting a nice little run by in. With some pyros back into the back line. Not quite sure how those guys got there. They might have just run around this way. They didn't kill any of Magic's units. Or buildings. A lot of nano construction turrets though. We'll actually just reclaim up all of Flaka's pyros. Somebody needs to tell these rocket bots that all those units are dead. They might be just on an attack ground order, wasting ammo. Either that or it's target practice. Lord knows the Cortex needs it. And we saw those Sheldons earlier missing the defensive emplacements. So yeah, Cortex definitely could use a little bit of target practice there for some of their gunners. So El Bardo now moves his commander up to the front, gets a tactical missile launcher under construction. And nearly 20 minutes into the game, starting to see some of the higher tech fusion reactors coming out there for Magix. In the main bases, getting some fusion reactors there out for Phalange, as well as for Tears and Rain, who have now upgraded entirely to Tech 2 mexes. Pretty much entirely. I would expect it is the same down towards the south. So El Bardo actually getting advanced fusion reactors up, so ecoing quite well. We got advanced shipyard coming in. I'm not sure how important ships are going to be on this map. There's a lot of terrain that things like battleships would have to get around. So I'm not quite sure. We'll see how effective the Navy is in this game as Tears and Rain pushing forward once again into the Dragon's Maw turrets, as well as this mixture of Tech 1 and Tech 2 there for Coronal. But Sheldon's great at skirmishes and keeping units at range, and Sumos can't really keep up, so they're just taking a hell of a pounding to the face. That's going to force Coronal back. Tears and Rain, though, is abandoning a little bit of reclaim here that Coronal could scoop up if he wanted to. Now we got a bombing run out from El Bardo. Going after Power Grid here for Tears and Rain, I'm guessing. CZ sees the advanced fusion reactor and goes straight in on it. As that goes critical, it takes out a healthy chunk of Tears and Rain's Power Grid there. Moves on. Could get the advanced fusion or the fusion reactor here for Phalange as well. Not quite enough AA. Be able to stop that as that's going to go down. And Flocka coming on to add insult to injury here with his own bombers. Shifting over to Tellus. These have been some devastating bombing runs. Not quite enough AA up for players in the mainland. Magix does have some more advanced anti-aircraft, but these bombers have done what they set out to do. Phalange's going to have to rebuild his power generators once again as El Bardo grabs another tactical missile launcher here on the mainland. Everything in the middle just turns into skirmishes between the Sumos that really want to get in range and the Sheldons that really don't want them to. This Pyro's now out from Flocka, killing more of their own units than I think they are the enemies. Sumo's there from Magix as well as a battleship now in the Navy. So the battleship's going to do a pretty good job of taking out this section and providing fire support, but it is going to be up to these rocket bots, Sumos, and thugs there from Magix to be able to punch a hole in this line. I think he's going to be a little bit more successful than Erun has been on this side. Rocket bots absolutely decimating the defensive structures. Are a couple of pop-up flamethrower turrets though that need to be dealt with. And they will be dealt with short order here. Even sending out a spy bot to be able to scout these units out. Now the door is nearly open, but the Sumos should be able to just take this Dragon's Maw out. Pyro's once again now out from Flocka to try and respond, but the Sumos love this kind of fight, man. They'll take this kind of fight any day of the week. EMP gunships as well, going to get shot down from the air cover out of this battleship, as well as supporting ships out in the bay. Anti-air ship. I told you I'm not quite as good on Navy yet. In the middle, it is much of the same. We do have Tech 2 units out, though, from... Tartary Alligator. So the Sheldons combined with the heavy tanks causing some problems, and the blue team starting to collapse a little bit on a couple of different fronts here because they've lost control of this 3-mex expansion. Flocka is getting in trouble on this side. He's trying to get up a Sabo battery. Does have some Sumos. More Sumos are available for Magix, but a lot of them are pretty heavily damaged. That's going to be the end of that push there for Magix. Only so far Flocka can push him back, though, as the battleship will offer Magix some cover. Meanwhile, on the other side, Erun has completely lost his beachhead and is now losing his floating buildings. And in the middle, Karunal is once again retreating. Tactical retreat under the fire of the Sheldons. He does have some Sabo batteries popping up that are at least able to hit the Sheldons back. So I think this is going to be the line where he stabilizes at. Pyro's out to try and respond as well. Magic's trying to get a run by once again using this little bypass to great effect. Might be able to even bag himself a plasma artillery there. Maybe not. So the Pyros now meet in a lovely flurry of flames. Some of them do make it through, but are immediately cut down by the Sumos. And these Sumos, man, these guys have seen better days. Yeah, these guys are literally Harrison Ford It's like, it's not the age, baby, it's the mileage. Fidos as well, trying to fight off the Pyros. Fidos and the Pyros. Actually, these are Hounds, sorry. Old habit using Total Annihilation names. El Bardo, though, with these tactical missile batteries up. This one's gotten 30 kills to its name. This one's gotten 20 kills, so these guys definitely getting their value. The Magix seems to be very intent on continuing to just hound this side of the map for all it's worth. Even has his own tactical missile launchers. Newly erected, so doesn't have quite as much value as El Bardo has on his right now. Also starting to run out of space to build. As far as more late game stuff, advanced fusion reactors on the way. We do have an experimental gantry now coming out for Tears in Rain, so getting to that Tech 3 phase / Tech 4 phase. The Magix has now brought some more stout firepower. Will be eliminated by an artillery shell. This push, though, starting to really take a toll, though, on the blue team on the southern side, as Karunal and Flaka are almost fighting the entire enemy team. Here, as Flaka is having to deal with Magix on the beach side, he's also having to deal with him a little bit in the middle, and then Karuna is left holding the bag with the other 3 players that have been pushing. Tellus, Tears in Rain, as well as Tartary Alligator, even to some extent. Arun, though, starting to offer some assistance, getting some Pyros down the cliff. Actually set up a advanced bot lab on said cliff with a lot of construction turrets under assistance, but might be a little bit too little too late here, as the Sheldon's there for Magix. Got some more heavily armored assault bots. The Mammoth's coming up. Karunal once again having to retreat and reform his line. He doesn't have that many more places to retreat to. This is his main base right here. Flaka's Sumos, though, walking forward, and Sheldon's from Magic leaving a little bit of the protective envelope of these Mammoths, but not for too long. The Mammoths and Sumos now starting to make their way into Karunal's base, and Karunal not with a whole lot to respond. He has some Sumos here, but Mammoth should trade pretty well with the Sumos as long as Tears in Rain actually puts these into a formation. If he marches them in one by one, it's not going to be as good. Though he does have the Tachyon weapon in the backline as well. So even with that, this is looking real sketch for the blue team on the southern side. Magix is now completely moved in, starting to threaten Killer Storm's base as well. So that's going to be 2 players left with nearly no bases here. So we stay a little zoomed out to keep an eye on this. Although while all this is happening, we'll look at it in a second, El Barto has now made a move as well. This looks like a very large army of, what are these, heavy tanks? Oh, medium amphibious tanks. So a lot of Tech 1 units, but he's got enough of them to make a difference. Moving into Tears in Rain and actually threatening the experimental gantry here, and that's going to go down. Tears in Rain needs to think about using the D-gun here, man. Before your commander dies, and it's going to die from a flurry of artillery shells. As El Barto nearly levels Tears in Rain's base here. Both sides of the map, though, hard to pay attention to both of them. I apologize. The medium amphibious tanks are actually Tech 2 units. They're not Tech 1 units, like I originally said. But meanwhile, Flocka has an angry Magix knocking on his door. Flocka walks forward with his cloaking on his commander. Gonna try and get some D-gun shots off, maybe? He is in range. Maybe he's waiting for them to clump up. Actually, decloaks here and is just gonna go for the sacrifice. Just suicides to take out Magic's entire army there. As a reminder, if you're new to Beyond All Reason, this is played as kind of a total conquest mode. It's not played in assassination. So Flocka does not lose his base if his commander goes down, just like Tears and Rain didn't lose. Well, Tears and Rain did lose his entire base, but that was because the units killed it, not because the commander died. And Coronel actually capitulating from the game, donating everything in his base over to El Barto. Sees when the gig is up. His base was in a bad spot. Can't really blame him for that one. Killer Storm in an equally rough position with his base. You start to see the Karganeths enter the field. Flocka trying to bat those away with Pyros. Karganeths, though, Tech 3 units not easily dismantled. And he's got quite a few of them. It's gonna be one of them going down due to the numbers, but doesn't have enough to deal with all four of them. As Arun tries to stabilize this line a little bit. Flocka's got his work cut out for him, though, on the flank. And Tears and Rain, I believe, is also giving up the ghost here. No units left on the screen for him. So the score sits 3 commanders, 2-2. 3 commanders on the field. We've got El Barto, Firestorm. I believe Arun's commander is still working around, so blue team with 3 commanders, red team with 2 commanders remaining. That's going to be Magic's commander as well as not Phalange's commander. I think Tartary Alligator's commander is still alive somewhere. I am just not seeing it. But El Barto under siege from Karganeths as well as medium tanks, or heavy tanks, sorry. Might lose his commander. Might need a cloak there. There we go. Nice heads up play from him. Goes for the D-gun now. Nicely done. Saves his commander. Saves his base. For the time being, at least, as these Karganeths are actually just climbing up and over. I thought this was impassable by bots, but it appears I was mistaken. A Bardo under cloak can go for the D-gun again here, or he can suicide. Goes for the D-gun. Nicely done. Takes out both Karganeths and saves his tactical missile launchers, of which he has now got almost a combined 100 kills on these 3 tactical missile launchers. Very nicely done. As Magix is now starting to just take over, though, the southern side of the map. Flocka a little bit outmatched here, I think, as far as tech. He does have tech 2, but and he does have an experimental gantry up. He's trying to get some Shivas out, of which he has 1 right now on the field. Now we have the first true experimental, the Juggernaut, coming out from Magix, so Magic's still leading the pack whenever it comes to overall experimentals. Arun has an experimental over on this side, I believe, under construction actually, not finished yet. So Flocka in a very dangerous position here with his base, as Karganeths as well as Pyros and even Labs coming in to assault his base. 1 lone Shiva. Alone. Betrayed by the country it loves. Now its only chance in its time of need. To be fair, it did pretty well, but it did not make it. Another Shiva comes out. 1 Shiva. Alone. betrayed by the country it loves. And it's actually going to get a Karganeth, I think, before it dies. Yeah, there we go. There's another one here that's pretty low health that it could also go for. The missile launches and bam! Karganeth down. Actually, damn, the Shiva's putting in work, man. That combined with the distraction Tech 1 units. That is one important thing in this game. You really should never stop producing Tech 1 because it serves as a marvelous distraction for your opponents. Units, but I don't think all the Tech 1 distractions in the world. First off, Killer Storm I think is now dead. Killer Storm has lost the spit swapping make-out cage match going down on Angel Crossing here. Maybe. His commander might be able to make it out of there. I don't know if he has Cloak available. He probably doesn't have the energy for it. That is going to be Killer Storm eliminated from this game, as I don't believe he has any constructors left. Could still be gifted one. And Flakka, now the only remaining member of the land coalition here for the blue team, as he is about to lose his experimental gantry. Karganeth's in his base. Tech 1 from El Bardo, trying to be a distraction here, but that Juggernaut is locked in, and even if they were able to kill this one, which I think is a pretty tall order, they've got another one literally coming out of the water right now. Alright, so Flakka on the verge of being eliminated. I don't think he has any more constructors. I'm not seeing any left, and he has no commander either. So that is going to be Flakka out of the game for the time being, unless he gets donated a constructor by one of his allies. Now it is all up to El Bardo, who, to be fair, we didn't talk about this, but he did make a really, really nice push up to the north. Nearly eliminated Tartary Alligator, who, well, and I believe effectively did eliminate him, but Tartary Alligator got gifted a couple of construction bots. But now we have the Juggernaut out from Erun, who's now made landfall. If there is a way to do split screen in this game, I don't know what it is. Answers in the comments from one of the devs if there is a way to do split screen, or if we could get that implemented, please and thank you. You can see Flakka actually pinging out to do a pawn shield here. Talking about that Tech 1 distraction. Down at the bottom, first Juggernaut still going to work. Now moving its way to Karunal's old base, now owned by El Bardo. Tears in Rain now losing another experimental gantry that was built on top of his previous one. It looks like Tears in Rain doesn't want to play anymore, as he could have had a constructor gifted to him, but elected to not receive it. So now it's literally a base race here, as the Juggernauts from both sides doing incredible amounts of damage to both bases. Although I gotta say I favor Magic's position a little bit more than Erun's position. Although Erun really starting to get some support here from a Tech 1 unit perspective. And that actually, I think, just straight up eliminated Phalange from this game. Or that advanced fusion reactor went critical and took out his entire power grid. So now Tellus redirecting all of his Karganeths, as well as Pyros, to try and gangbang this Colossus, or this Juggernaut, down. Looks like the Juggernaut's holding up pretty well to the Karganeth gangbang. It actually goes for, I think that was a power grid that went up there for Tellus. This is rough stuff here. Shield's helping a little bit with some of the plasma shots there from the Juggernaut, but not able to stop that main beam weapon. As you can see, whenever it went critical, it took out the rest of the stuff with it. He has one fusion reactor left to his name. Juggernaut now out for Magix. Gonna try and stop all the hokey pokey shenanigans down here. And one of them down here has just kind of parked itself and is feeding Ved off of these Tech 1 units. Now Bardo goes for the D-gun with his commander. Great shot there. Takes out the Juggernaut. One of them. Still have a second one back here that El Bardo is going to have to deal with. That is nutty. The cloaking moves from El Bardo have been quite good this game on cloaking to D-gun high-level units. And some of you might say, hey, that's overpowered, but on the flip side, these commanders are literally made out of paper mache. Like a Tech 3 unit only has to piss on it before the paper mache falls apart. But more Tech 3 units, so we got some Shivas now coming in. Juggernaut deployed to help stop the bleeding, and I mean, as far as this looks, I mean, it's kind of Magix versus Erun and El Bardo at this point. Tears and Rain does have a Juggernaut. Can't believe I missed that earlier. So I think his entire goal now is just to micro this Juggernaut. Magix could use a little bit more T1 spam down here. I'm not sure where the spam stream... Okay, so the spam stream is all coming down here, but El Bardo definitely with the superior spam stream. I think producing out of 3 bot labs, yeah. So, superior spam stream there. As we'll check in on that Juggernaut in a little bit. Bombing run now out from El Bardo, going after either this Juggernaut, which apparently that beam weapon can shoot in the air and pretty effectively, but actually going after Phalange's remaining power grid. And that is going to be the last constructor there, I believe, for Phalange. Taking that out. Actually, Magix transferring all of these Juggernauts over to Tears and Rain. So Tears and Rain now is the Juggernaut micro god for the red team. And also, I think, giving these over to Phalange as well. So Magix just offloading a lot of unit control at this point, focusing on maybe spam production as well as ecoing, which we haven't really talked about, but the blue team faring a little better on the eco side than the red team, which makes a little bit of sense because, well, actually it doesn't really make that much more sense because it looks like they have about even number of mechs count. Probably comes down to overall mass fabrication. So we got a whole bunch of energy converters here. There for El Bardo, as well as for Erun. And Magix doesn't have near the amount of energy conversion just yet. He is working on getting it up, but you know, sometimes whenever you need magic to get it up, you got a bigger problem. Tellus actually still in this game as well with some defensive structures. Actually even has a whole factory all to himself. So Tellus is, I believe, the only player with construction capabilities at this point. This is a huge pyro push, though, out of Erun, utilizing this northern base up here to get some land forces out. And the Juggernaut push is really stalled due to, I think, just the lack of overall Tech 1 spam out from Magix. El Bardo probably D-gunned himself another kill on a Juggernaut, which always feels bad. Pyros here, though. These Pyros will deal with any Tech 1 spam shield really, really well. They seem to be focused mostly on getting Tellus out of this game, though, as they are about to completely level his base. Level a bunch of each other while they're at it, but it's okay. All is fair in love and war, and whenever you're a pyro-wielding maniac. Some of the Pyros do split off and head down to the south. Erun gonna kill more of his own units in this in this push, in this march to the sea. Going full scorched earth on himself. So that push, I don't think that push is going to go anywhere. Magix has got enough units. Second round of pyros coming out from Erun needs to spread them out a little bit. I'll go ahead and get some of these drawings off of the screen. There's more heavily armored assault bots now from Erun making their way up. And now the spam stream from El Barto starting to threaten this forward base here for Magix. Magix in a little bit of trouble right now. He does have this Juggernaut here that is going to help at least alleviate some of the bleeding. And the Despo in the bay helping a lot as well. But El Barto has done a great job of grabbing back some of this ground. We have some Juggernaut on Juggernaut action up here. As the Juggernaut being microed by Tears and Rain. Going to go facing off against Erun. Erun, though, with a ton of support units in the form of pyros as well as other units. As that Juggernaut goes critical, does take out a lot of the pyros there for Erun, but he's got plenty to be able to replace him. Is now setting himself up to start making a little bit more of a land push into Magic's base. Blue team pulling in almost double the eco now of the red team. It's starting to become a little bit untenable here for Magix against the world, who has played a fantastic game. Don't get me wrong. But Erun and El Barto, and actually Flaka now starting to get himself reestablished here, gifted over some constructors. Getting himself reestablished, getting some geothermal energy up. Already got some Moho mines or advanced metal extractors. So it looks like Tears and Rain going for a different approach now. Going to walk the Juggernaut in, try and deal with Arun's commander here. We'll see if Erun is quite as Johnny on the spot with his D-gun. Doesn't look like it as he takes a ton of Karganeth fire. Okay, there we go. Goes into Cloak. Might go for the D-gun here. But it is very risky as he is on but a sliver of HP. It looks like he's just going to choose to disengage, and the Karganeths going to try and clean up as best they can. Juggernaut as well, there from Tears and Rain. As the pyro spam now starts. Up towards the top. Juggernaut getting absolutely swarmed here by gunships there from Magix. And we just saw that Juggernaut going up in flames down there. Saw the little bloom off the side of the screen. As all of these little wasps, I think that's what they're actually called. Yeah, they're actually called wasps. And even a flying fortress. I believe that's the dragon. Yeah, buddy. Look at me, knowing my units. Juggernaut going critical, though, as the dragons now have... I'm not sure what air actually looks like. There don't seem to be very many fighters in the vicinity. We have a couple of them up here that are now starting to engage the dragons. The dragons don't appear to have any anti-air capabilities, but all they have to do is fly over some of the advanced ground to air fire here, and you can see these units get picked off rather quickly. And Magix now once again not wanting to give Black a moment's peace here. El Barto going for yet another D-gun cloaking maneuver. This dude is absolutely nuts. That's got to be like 4 Juggernauts killed by El Barto with the cloaked D-gun. Cloaking D-gun maneuver. That is it's wacky stuff as we're starting to get some Shivas coming in. They're going to run into the dragons, though. Dragons pretty damn good at some of that air-to-ground fire. And you got some pyro support, and from an air perspective, you can look. There's not a whole lot of air for for the blue team. Arun has a few that are around. Could probably kill one of the dragons, but if Magix gets some AA or some fighters of his own, going to be a lot more untenable of a position. He's still trying to make Flakka's life down here, though, a living hell. As Tears in Rain bemoaning the cloaking mechanism. If both teams have it, man, I don't see how it's overpowered. El Bardo's just really good with it. 48 minutes into the game. I think it is now properly a 1v2 or a 1v3. Although I haven't seen any amounts of near the same amounts of necrophilia out of Magix that I saw last game. I'm a little disappointed, if I'm honest. Now we're starting to see AA get mixed into El Bardo's mix to deal with these dragons. Fighters now deployed there from Arun. They're actually just going to beam that dragon down as they venture out of friendly skies and into enemy-controlled skies, and that is 4 dragons down. That is that's got a sting there for Magix. We got some more Juggernaut on Juggernaut action here. Magix Juggernaut facing off once again against Arun's Juggernaut. Magix has just been a little bit light in the, as Flakka put it, spam shield game, I think, this round. And huge bomber wave in from El Bardo. We'll check in on the Juggernaut duel here in a second, but these guys are looking to level Magix base. Maybe. Okay, they wheel around. Bombs away. Are these fighters? Did I miss? Oh yeah, these are fighters. Or scout planes. I believe, if I'm seeing that correctly. Yeah, those are scout planes. Okay. Those are not bombers. Here are the bombers. As Magic's now getting a couple of fighters of his own. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Bombers now have their orders. They're zeroing in on the experimental gantry. AA opens up. Oh, they're actually zeroing in on the advanced power generator, and that absolutely cripples Magic's power generation. He does have some of these naval fusion generators, so he's not at 0. But that is devastating. You can see how that impacts his overall metal income. Now he's dropped down to 144 with only 6,000 energy. And Magix calls it 51 minutes. Losing all his power was the straw that broke the camel's back. And losing all his power means that he won't be able to fire his weapons either. Like, the Juggernaut actually requires energy to function. So, rendered a lot of his army useless, but fantastic game by both sides. Barto with the cloak D-gun. I think we caught that 4 or 5 times. I'm sure there were more that I didn't catch that were absolutely nuts. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. This game is Beyond All Reason. Feel free to go download it. Spiritual successor to Total Annihilation. These guys are awesome. The devs, awesome guys. Very hard workers. So definitely go check this game out if you haven't already. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.